All right. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Woman show on the New You Nation Network. Happy Monday. Here we are for another Monday evening, an episode of the show. We are excited to be here and we are going to get started as we normally do by introducing ourselves and saying what we are grateful for. And so I will say that my name is Theodore Carter. You can see I had like a crazy day. I had to think about that. I am a certified life coach, career coach, and HR consultant. And what am I grateful for? I am grateful for, I'm going to honestly say, I am grateful for my therapist. I am
Yeah.
grateful for that unbiased person that I get to meet with every month just to keep my mental together. So anybody that knows me know I do therapy as preventative care for my mind. But I am just grateful, to be able to just unpack, clear out my brain cells with an unbiased person. And I'm grateful to be here on another Monday, February 17th. Um, and I'm going to toss it to you, Sheila.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sheila Isom. I am an insurance claims professional. I am a notary public, and I am also an independent stylist selling nail polish strips for Color Street. And today I am not thankful for anything in particular. I'm just thankful.
Mm,
Um, I am here. My loved ones are here. My loved ones are safe. And I'm just thankful for that.
yes. All righty. That's a good one, man. I mean, I think that's just how we need to be every day. But here we are.
Yeah.
Thankful, grateful. It's Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network. We hope you join us, engage. This is a interesting topic tonight.
Yes, indeed.
And
Yes.
Sheila, I'm gonna let you bring us into this topic. I'm gonna let you bring us into this topic.
So, yesterday, which is Sunday, was my do nothing day.
Okay.
And I've mentioned before, I am a television person. I barely go to the movies, mainly because I can't stay up to watch a movie long enough. However, I can watch TV.
Mm,
And yesterday, I was actually just looking for movies to watch, right? Maybe an hour and a half. I didn't want to watch any kind of series because I just didn't feel like committing to it, right?
mhm.
But as I was going through one of the streaming services, I remembered I saw a title, and I remember people talking about it on social media saying that it was really good.
Okay.
And the name of the series, it was what they call a limited series. There were 8 episodes, an hour long each. So, yes, I binge watched for 8 hours. And it was called From Scratch.
Oh.
And it was about an American woman from Texas. She was actually a law school student who had a love and passion for art. So she took a break from law school, much to the dismay of her lawyer father. And she was paying for law school herself, but she took a break because she had an opportunity to go to Florence, Italy to study art. And while she was there, she didn't go there for a relationship, but she did. She met a guy and started a little something with the guy. But then there
Mm,
was also this chef that caught her eye.
mm.
And he let it be known from the very beginning with little gestures, one of which was particularly big because he bought her a bicycle so that she could get around. But he let her know that he was interested in her.
Mm.
And she tried to resist it, but she couldn't. So they end up falling in love. he moves to the States with her when she comes back, and the entire series was just about their relationship, and it was so beautiful, and it was actually based on um a, a book that a woman had written about her life story. So it's based on a true story. So it's on Netflix. If you ever get an opportunity to catch it from scratch, um, I dare, I would say, please, please, please watch it. It does get emotional during the last few episodes. I will tell you that as well, but it was a very, very good story. And then I thought about today, like one of every now and then I have a guilty pleasure, right? Everybody has one. Again, I'm a television person, and usually my pleasure are certain shows that come on certain nights, and I kind of sort of I'll follow it for a number of years, and then I'll get bored. And one of my pleasures was 90 Day Fiancé.
Okay.
And they have a whole series of shows about this where it started out with Americans bringing someone from another country over that they fell in love with, that they met somehow or another, whether they met them online, whether they met them when they went to that country, or however, right? And you have 90 days to get married, basically, right? In order for them to stay in the States. And then there's a spinoff with that where it's called 90 Days Abroad, where you have the American that actually goes to the country of the person that they're in love with. And, and then they either decide to move over there or they're staying there for a short period of time. So I just got to thinking, is that something that people would actually now consider, especially those people that may be finding it difficult to find love in the States? Knowing that there are different, there are definitely cultural differences, regardless of what country the other person is in. But, it just got me to thinking, it's like, how prevalent is it? And I would suspect that it's probably very popular. And if it's something that should not be taken off of the table.
So, question: Is it like married at first sight, where you don't meet the person until you're at the altar, or do you meet them before?
Not necessarily. A lot of these couples, again, somehow, pretty much, I would say no. They've met them somehow. Like I said, they may have had an online relationship with them for a while. Some people have met because the person was there for work purposes. Some have even been over there because they were on a vacation and just had a whirlwind of, romance with this person, and felt that that connection was deep enough for them to establish a relationship. Now, of course, not all of the relationships work out, but there have been some successful ones. So I just thought it was very interesting, a topic to find out whether or not this is something that people would actually want to explore. What are the upsides to it and the downsides? I know a lot of women complain about not being able to find a good man. Can you find a good man in Egypt or Germany or Sweden or Morocco?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm the best person to answer this question, because what I'm told often is like, you got to even go out to even make yourself visible to even connect with someone. So if I'm not doing that here, Lord knows how it's going to happen in another country. But it is interesting because, I mean, I'm sure we also probably know people that have gone on a vacation and met someone and came back, and next thing you know, they are dating this person and bringing this person back home with them. right? Or are they going back a lot because they're, they like the person or whatever. So I'm sure it's possible. I'm not, yeah, I would have to think about this one.
I know. Well, think about it. Remember how Stella got her groove back?
Yep.
Author Terry McMillan, right? So while some of it, of course, by the time it got to the movies, and probably when she was writing the book, took some liberties, to make it more entertaining. But that was based on real life. She went over to Jamaica on vacation. It was a girls' trip, and nothing pretentious, nothing intentional, and she met this young guy, and he was from Jamaica, and next thing her vacation turned into a little love fest there, and he ended up coming over to the States. Unfortunately, that relationship didn't last long, but that was my first exposure really to finding love elsewhere outside of the States.
And I think that's something that needs to be considered, right? Because in that instance, it wasn't even just the fact that they were, he was from another country, right? Was Stella got a groove back. He was younger too, right? The age difference was so that's another question, right? I think people would have to answer, like, do you have an age range for the person that you would date? Right. So I think that all, and then also, like with the 90-day fiance show, right? They have 90 days, right, to decide if they want to get married because there's a visa situation, right? So if it's not the 90-day fiance show, like, it's a whole different scenario. It's just somebody going over to another country, meeting somebody and bringing them back here. You do have that barrier of most people that come in on a visa come in on either a visitor's visa, right, business visa, a work visa, right, which expires at a certain period of time. So that's another thing that you need to take into consideration, right? And then also, this person you met in this other country that you bringing back with you after what? Are you bringing over here? Do you really want them to come over and move into your house and you only know them for like 90 days?
Right. Now, some of the some of the couples too, they talked about, it's not like it was a fly-by-night relationship. Some of them may have been, but then there were quite a few where the relationship progressed over time. So the American made several trips, a number of trips in some instances, back and forth to the country where the person that they were in love with lived. But it also talked about the obstacles, which actually are probably some of the common obstacles when you find somebody that's even within your own state, religious differences, familial expectations, trying to make sure that you get along with the family, and you really don't have a lot of time, because chances are when you're traveling back there, you can only stay for a certain amount of time for whatever reason, right? That there, even when you go to another country, you can only stay for so long. Right. So there again, we talked about getting used to the different cultures and the way of living, and whether the expectation is that once they come over to the States, are they going to change that behavior to conform to the way that we live in the States? And conversely, the ones that decide that they're going to uproot their lives and move to another country to be with someone that lives elsewhere, are they going to realize that the American way of doing things just is not going to cut it in another country?
That's true. I mean, I would, and where I would probably see this, where it probably happens a lot too, are for individuals who work in another country. You know what I'm saying? Like they work for a company that sends you abroad internationally, and you're there for like a year or two or more, right? I would imagine that you could meet someone there that you might want to bring back, but you have more time to really date them because you're there, you're working there, you're actually living there. It's actually, your home.
Right.
Right. Because the other thing is also outside of the cultural differences, right? The language, right? Is this someone that feels comfortable with the language in our country and vice versa?
Right.
So
yeah,
I mean, which is interesting, right? Because I was married young, right? I'm not gonna say young, but in my 20s I was married, and my ex-husband is from Honduras, right? His family is from Honduras. He came here young, so he spoke English more so than Spanish, but his parents spoke very little English, right?
really.
And because I took it in school, I read it better than I speak it.
Yes.
And if you speak it slowly, I can understand it, but it takes me a while. So for me, it was like even just trying to communicate with them, and that's us living in the state, both of us in the States, right? So imagine going to another country, right, where everyone predominantly speaks another language than what you're used to, and having someone come over here and I'm not feeling comfortable in that. Like I was fine because my ex-husband, his siblings, everybody, they spoke English, right? And his parents understood it and spoke it a little, but like I said, that was something that I had to get used to, is like, really taking my time to try to understand them and also speak slow enough so they can understand me.
Yeah.
Right. So I do think those are some things that you're going to think about if you're thinking of having a relationship with someone. Like you go to another country and meet them, right?
And same thing with it's a long process even to get them over here, right? Because then you got to have the two embassies involved, the United States Embassy as well as the country that they're in, and there's a lot of paperwork that has to be filled out. There's interviewing that has to be done, and you have to make sure that they're actually going to get the visa to come over, right? And sometimes it's taken these people a number of tries before they were actually able to come over. In some cases, I'm thinking probably some people were actually denied. Yeah. Then that other person has to make the decision as to whether or not they actually now want to leave the United States to stay and build a relationship. So that's the other part to it, is, the show is actually called 90 Days the Other Way. Because the American has decided that they're going to go live in this other country. And again, they're not that unfamiliar with it for the most part, because they've visited before. But there's a difference between visiting and living. It's in a different place, because there you have no other choice but to be immersed in the culture and the ways of life for that country. So I mean, I think it's an interesting perspective, but you can also somewhat liken it to having a long distance relationship, right? So you are on the East Coast and you meet somebody that's either from the Midwest or the West Coast. How do you establish and maintain a long distance relationship? A lot of people aren't cut out for that.
I mean, because there's so many different things to think about, right? Especially if you're in two different time zones, right? There's that, I think we talked about last week, there's the whole issue of trust, right? And feeling, especially if you don't know a person well enough, you're just meeting them, right? So you have to go with I'm gonna trust you right from the beginning until you give me something not to trust you about. But it is, I think there's so many factors that you have to take into consideration. But I think one of the biggest things is what you mentioned earlier, is definitely the cultural differences, the traditions, right? Language barriers that might come up. And when someone's in another country, it's not just a 3 hour time difference or 1 hour time difference.
Right.
It could be a whole 12 hours.
Yes. Or
When it's
some
5
days.
p.m. here, when it's 5 a.m. here, it might be 5 p.m. there.
Right.
Right. So I think it depends on where, I guess where it's at as well. But I would imagine, and I wish we had someone that we could ask this question. I would imagine that it's easier for a younger person, like a millennial or a Gen Z, like because they are so open minded, and they're there for it. I would think for like our generation, maybe not all of us, we kind of still are more in that we gotta think about it, deliberate, we gotta pros and cons, and like by the time we go through all of that.
Right, right. And you're so accustomed to doing things a certain way, you're kind of more structured, and as we say, the older you get, the more set in your ways you become. However, when you're looking for love, are you willing to compromise on that?
That's the question.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer.
And again, for every individual, it's different. But like watching the shows, it was, it ran the gamut, right? It was, hey, I'm not looking for love. I'm just here to have a good time. You have to pop up. But, we kind of built something on there, and up to the point where, you have that individual who is looking for someone to marry. And that is the goal from the very beginning. And they came across this person, however they came across him, and they said, this is the person that I'm going to marry. Now get through the international barriers.
Wow. Because also the other thing is the person still working? Are they retired? Like, do they need to go over there and find a job, or are they just going over there and they're retired and they're just living their best lives, right? So that there's also that dynamic.
Yes.
Right? Because if you still need to work now, are you going to be able to go over there and find a job that you want to do or you're interested in doing? So that is another thing to take into consideration.
Right, absolutely. And all of your personal belongings, right? So if you own a home, now do you sell the house? Because then that should give you some assets to take with you, right?
Yeah.
Everything that you own in your place, your clothing, your furniture, you either put it in storage and sell it off or whatever. So there's a lot of logistics that are behind moving out of the United States. Truthfully, even if you were to do it, do a long distance in country relationship, right? If you decide that you wanted to kind of move in with somebody and you're going to go to where they are, then you have to figure out, what am I doing with all of my worldly possessions?
Yeah.
Tagging on to our last week's topic, you make the decision that you don't want to live apart together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and let's face it, because one of the things, I'm a Jersey girl. As I get older, I tolerate the weather less and less. I'm a North Jersey girl specifically, so for me, it's accessibility.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't go into the city a lot, but the fact that I can go, I love.
Yeah.
I don't need to always get in my car to drive to the store. If I needed to go get toilet paper, I can probably walk around the corner somewhere. There's always something. And then, there's the food. You're accustomed to a different, type of cuisine. There are just some things that you can't get anyplace else. So there are those shifts as well, because now if you decide that you now want to move out to Tennessee, depending on where it is, the city in Tennessee, Nashville, is just not like the same thing as New York City or Newark, New Jersey. There's still some differences. Even Charlotte, North Carolina. You know it. They built it up. It's a busy place, just like Atlanta, but there still has that country feel to it.
But it's true, because I was gonna say that. I was gonna say, like, being down here, right? I chose Charlotte because, yes, they do have uptown, which is what they call their downtown, is like the uptown, right? But like when one of my friends came to visit, I was like, yo, listen, you gotta move it, girl, because this ain't New York. We not hitting the club, we not hitting the rooftop spot at 12 a.m. because they closing at 2. like, so if you really want to go out and you really want to be out for a little while, you better move it a little, because this is not like we stepping in there like 8:39,
right?
Because some of the places even are like winding down at like 12.
Right?
And so it's true. I think you have to really know where you're at. And like when I moved down here, I remember like my nieces and nephews were like, oh, you're gonna move down there, what are you? And I was like, first of all, you act like your aunt was hanging out when she was in Jersey, right? It wasn't like I was hanging out like that anyway. So this is enough for me. I don't need, like, because I'm way beyond that, going out, clubbing, all of that. I didn't club when I was younger, right? But I do think that's something people have to take into consideration. Like, where are you at the stage in life as you're making certain decisions? Like,
yes.
Like I actually know like a couple of people who, like, I know this one person and she's getting married this year. She met someone like last year at a wedding. She lived in North Carolina, and then I think sometime last year relocated to where the person she met at the wedding is. Right, so I think they're like in Massachusetts or something. I'm not even sure. Right, but I don't think she sold her house down here yet. Right, and she may do that like after they get married or whatever. But that was a conscious decision. Like, she had to figure out like what she was going to do, how she was going to do it. Thankfully, she has her own business, right? So that made it a little easier. But she also ended up taking like a role up there, right, as well as still doing her own business. So I think there's a lot to consider. Right. And so for those of you who are joining us now, this is the Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network. And we are talking about whether or not you would take the leap and move across the border or bring somebody from across the border as your fiance, boo, whatever you want to call it. But like, is that something you would do? So what say you in the comments? Like, would you take a chance on starting a relationship with someone in another country? Because that is an interesting conversation, because people have done it.
Yeah, people do it all the time. And again, the reasons for it vary. Like I said, a lot of times people are like, I just can't find the person that's my forever person here in the States. Let me go and find someone abroad. I've always enjoyed going to this country. The men or the women there are appealing. So maybe I'll have some luck there. And again, same thing in the States. Maybe if you're living in the South and you want a different kind of lifestyle, and you're not having luck in the South, maybe you want to try somebody that lives in the Northeast or all the way out in Seattle. Go to Washington State.
So that's a question for you. If you were not married, right? Because you are married. But if you were not married, if you could live anywhere, right? Where would you live? And if you were to be like, oh, I'm gonna, find someone in another country, like what country is calling you?
I'm going to tell you, because then when you're watching these shows, you romanticize, right? So binge watching from scratch yesterday, I was just like, Italy is on my bucket list. Do I have
Mm.
a particular place? Do I want to kind of do the touristy thing in Rome? Of course I do. Do I want to get into the countryside just to see like the architecture, the structure, the food, the authentic Italian living? Absolutely. So to me, that whole, because they were in Florence. He was originally from Sicily, so there's a part in the movie where they're in Sicily, and I was just like this would be perfect. I was like, oh, it's just absolutely beautiful. So would I try to live there? Maybe. So I'm thinking probably go to Italy.
Mm. Okay.
How about you?
You know what? I love to visit other countries. I don't know if there's a country that I would want to stay in though. I think after a certain amount of time, I'm always ready to come home. But if I had to, I guess if I had to think about it, I think I could, I think, hmm, maybe London or Paris.
Hmm.
Or
Yes.
or if I, or if I was thinking about a Caribbean country, um,
Yeah, see, of course I think about that because I want warm climate all the time too.
yeah, yeah, because
But
I'm thinking maybe I like could I do maybe Aruba or that's interesting. I know I couldn't do Jamaica. I don't know why. I just but
mhm.
I don't know, but and you know what? I think there are some places, not Cancun, but I think there are probably some places in Mexico and maybe
Mexico.
and maybe Puerto Rico. Hmm.
Well, I mean, the beauty behind Puerto Rico is that it's a U.S. territory. So,
Yeah,
you could float back and forth with no problems.
yeah,
But it still would be different if you actually decided to move there.
yeah. I mean, but that's like even moving down here, like because remember, I picked up and moved here in like 60 days, right? It was like I'm
Rather
going
quickly.
right. It was quick, and yeah, I have people down here, but honestly, I came down here with like, okay, what are you gonna do? But honestly, I feel like I've acclimated well. I can't believe I actually have been here 3 years
Wow.
already. It's
Yeah,
been
that's a
three
one
years,
time.
right? Like it flew. Like I'm like, wow. Like somebody asked me today, they was like, well, how long you been here? And I was like, oh wow, like 3 years. Like I've actually been here 3 years. That's how quickly it went. And you know, and people are like, oh, do you miss New York? I'm like, I miss the people, right? I
Hmm.
miss my family, I miss my friends and stuff, but a lot of them come to visit me and all of that. But honestly, I'm thinking about even if you're in the state, I think it's also something you have to think about when you want to make that move. Like you said, to the point you made, like you gotta kind of take into consideration what is the thing that you're looking for in your life at that time, right? In making that move. Because I think if I was to move out to another space, I would probably
Hmm.
do like one of my cousins, right? So she's retired and she hasn't completely moved, but every year during the winter months,
Hmm.
she goes to I think it's either the Bahamas or Dominican Republic. It's one of those places, and she rents a house and she stays down there until it gets warm back up here again. So like
Hmm.
she may be she's down there and she might come back like end of March, April, right? And that's another way I think if you have the benefit of doing that is to visit different places to see
Yes.
right? Where you would want to, and I actually have a friend in the States that did that as well. Like she went and visited different friends that lived in different places because she was trying to think about where she wanted to move to. And so she came and stayed with me probably for like a week and a half. And she just went and visited different friends that she knew and spent time in those cities and states for a little while. Like even me, before I actually moved to North Carolina, I came and stayed for about 9 days. Now that's not a lot of time, but I did come to stay where I was able to at least explore a little more than just taking a weekend trip.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yes. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would honestly say I don't know that I would probably date someone from another country and bring them here or go over there. But I never say never, but I can't see myself doing that. I think I'm kind of a little I'm open, like I'm open-minded, but there are certain parts of me that I think are still set in my ways, if that makes sense. If that's even possible.
Oh yeah, it's possible. Now, you are a transplant, right?
I am a transplant.
You are a transplant. So, in the 3 years that you've been in Charlotte, would you say that there is a stark difference between the men in New York versus the men in Charlotte?
I don't know, because I will honestly say the majority of people that I have met are transplants. That is the crazy thing about living here. Like when I meet people that are actually from North Carolina, I get excited. I'm like, oh wow.
It's like you're an authentic person.
Yeah,
You're authentic North Carolinian.
Because most people are transplants. They're either from the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, or they're from Ohio or Tennessee or some other place. And it's crazy though too. Also, you'll find a lot of people that'll be like, "Oh, I'm from South Carolina," and then they just moved to North Carolina.
One state over.
Exactly. But honestly, that's an interesting question because first of all, I'm gonna just say it admittedly, I go out, but I don't really I really need to go out, right? Because I meet people, but honestly, the majority of people that I meet, they are not from North Carolina. They're transplants. So it's hard to even say if there's a difference, right?
Yeah.
In them because there's so many differences because you have people from so many different places.
Yeah.
Like my neighbor, he's originally from, I think he said, well, I think his family is from North Carolina, but I think he spent a lot of time in like Texas.
And
then came back, and then he was in the military and all that, but then came back to North Carolina because his family is here. But yeah, so it's really, I could probably count on one hand the number of people I've met that are actually from North Carolina.
Wow. Yeah, I forgot about that part, that there are, a whole heck of a lot of transplants, because that's what happens, that whether it's for work reasons or even retirement, a lot of people migrate to, especially if you live up here, in the tri-state area where it's extremely expensive. So you're looking for, a more economical way of life after you've retired, because of course the money that you get from retirement is not what you get while you were working. So you're looking for your dollars to go a little further, but also you're ready for a different type of lifestyle at that point.
But I think if you move down here now, you really have to consider if you're going to do more rural, because honestly, the amount of building that they're doing, like I could tell you, like since I've been here in 3 years, like they are literally building a whole new like the complex on the other side of me, they're building more houses, but they're building like a whole shopping center, like a Publix, a new supermarket, and all these stores or whatever. So it is not as like I feel like I just got in under the boom because now, and it's probably still good for someone selling a home in New York, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the homes now are starting out like 400, 350, right? So and most of the the authentic North Carolinians, and even the ones that have been here for years, are blaming all of us who are coming down.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
All you Northerners come down here, and then all of a sudden now we can't afford anything.
But like literally right now, like it's booming. Like up the road from me, where it used to just be all trees, there's now like they just started building a whole townhouse development. Those houses are starting at like 400, right? Now, of course, selling your home in New York City, you could probably come down here, get this house with a whole bunch of land, put your down payment, and not even have a huge mortgage. But it is a little more expensive than when I first moved down here, like the houses. But the other thing I think you need to research is down here, you pay tax on your car as well.
Yes.
Right. So I think those are the things that people need to research, whether it's in the States or what we're talking about is right across the borders in another country. I think those are some things that you have to do research on as well, right? Because there are differences where like you move down here and you're thinking, okay, yes, it is going to be less expensive. There's a difference because you do pick up some expenses that you don't necessarily have in the New York City area, right? Because then if I go to renew my registration in Jersey or New York, I'm just renewing my registration.
Right.
When I go to renew my registration down here, I am renewing my registration and I have to pay a tax on my car.
Yeah.
Right. So now the registration that might just be $70 something or $80 something, right? You're now paying maybe a couple of $100 because they're taxing you're paying a tax on your vehicle. So I think that's another important thing to consider, whether you are looking to move to another country or another state within our country, is there some of the hidden costs that you might not think about.
Right. Okay? Because chances are where your money may go a little further someplace else, there are still some associated expenses that you've never anticipated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you're like, because like even me for this year, like I waited to the last minute, true story, to register to renew my registration, right? Because I just was busy. And I didn't realize that this year, right? The first year I didn't need, like last year, I didn't need to get an inspection. But this year I had to get an inspection. So now I'm like, oh man, I waited till the last minute. Thank God my dealership got me in. To do my inspection for me, so I could go on and the next day and just like register, because otherwise I would have been driving around, which I did was drive. And down here, you only have a license plate. You only have one license plate. We don't do license plate in front and back, right? And then you get these little stickers that you put on the back of your car that says 26 or 25 or whatever, right? So yeah, so it is interesting. I think the one thing that is important is that for people to do a little bit of research as to what you would be getting into as you move. I mean, I love it down here. Like I think I've adjusted well, but I don't know about moving to another country. Because even when I go on vacation, like I love it, but then after like 5 or 6 days, I'm like, I'm ready to go home.
Ready to come home. Yeah.
Right. So, but it might be different. Who knows? Who knows what would happen if I happen to go to a country and somebody sweeps me off my feet, right? But
right, because at that point you're actually going there for a different purpose. It's not like you're going there just to relocate for a job. You're going there for love.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and that's the difference, right? What is the person going there for? Like, I'm going for vacation, but you have some people that are actually going there with in their mind to meet somebody.
Yeah.
Right. So, or you have people that just get tired of living in the United States and decide they're gonna go live in another. I know somebody that did that. Like, she went for a couple of months and just lived in Mexico, right? And
Mm-hmm.
loved it. So I think she's trying to figure out how to go back. And one of my friends, I think he's still there, right? Like, years ago. So damn, he may have been over there like 15, 20 years now. He just picked up at one point and went. And this was before COVID, it was before all of that. I think he used to be able to work from home anyway. Moved to Puerto Rico and has not come back.
Wow.
He was in Brooklyn and just decided that he was ready to move, and he just picked up and moved to Puerto Rico
Yeah,
and never came back.
I have to say I kind of commend people that do that sort of thing, because I think I'm just a scaredy cat. I like structure. While I do want to experience life and experience new things, I'm not ready to make those new things a part of, or at least those type of new things, a part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Or to just to make that spontaneous decision to go ahead and do it, because I have in my mind too many what ifs.
Yeah.
You know,
And
what if
at the
I don't
end,
if I don't like it?
yeah.
What if this and what if that? I don't know if I could be able to mentally handle it.
And it's so crazy because I don't know if you saw my video last week, but on Friday, I literally said, right, how many of us are held back because of that what if mentality, right? Because we are questioning, what if this, what if that, what is this, what is that? And I will say there are some things that I don't what if, but this is something that I probably would be like, what if?
Yeah.
And I probably would be better able to do it, which doesn't really answer the question that we have tonight, guys. So I'm just going to say it, which is, would you move to another country to find love or bring somebody here? Because what I'm about to say is, I would probably consider it if I already had my boo. If I was already married, like you said, I'd be like, okay, babe, do you want to move to another country? I
Aha.
don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. I think there are so many variables to look at, because like you, when it comes to a move like that, I'm gonna be like, a little iffy, and I mean, although I've done my healing and I've gotten over all the little bad relationships, I'm still gonna be a little leery about, do I know you well enough to be thinking about moving to another country to be in a relationship with you?
And I also have this thing, and again, it gets back to, commending the people that actually do it. And I know I'm not too different from it, but, people want to come and live in the United States. They want to live in America. So in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, are you just here to get a green card
Mm,
so you could stay here? Am I a means to your end?
okay.
How do I know that you're not a really good actor?
Mm,
And then the flip side to that, the soft and fuzzy and the romantic side of me is like, well, some people actually do fall in love and they want to be with that person wherever they are. So just because they've come over here doesn't mean that they're using them for citizenship, because it's a change for that person as well. They are accustomed certain to way things are. They're accustomed to food. It's not easy finding employment, right? So if you, especially, and I have to say, especially men in a lot of countries, kind of like changed a little bit here because women are an important part of the workforce and in the household. But in a lot of countries, there's just, the man is the breadwinner, the man is the king of the castle. There's no ifs, ands about it. So now when you come over here, you might not be able to find something readily that's going to allow you to be the producer that you need to be, the protector that you need to be. And from scratch, that was one of the problems, because you would think someone who's a chef, especially when they're coming from Italy and they're making authentic Italian food, they shouldn't find a problem finding a job. But in this case, he did. He found a problem. He found problems getting gainfully employed. He was able to work in a restaurant, but he wasn't the chef.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't the chef, so he couldn't share his meals.
Yeah. But the other side of it too is you also need to have you have to be authorized to work.
That too, yes.
If you come over here on a visitor's, like a B1 visa, right, or which is a visitor's visa, or business visa, I think is B1, or visitor's visa, all of that, right? There's a process, and why I know there's a process, because that is one of the roles I used to have in HR, is helping individuals that were coming over to work to get their work, like their employment documents. If you come over here with like a B1 or a V1, like there's a certain amount of time on that visa that you have to convert it to a work authorization visa, right? And it is first of all, it's a lengthy process, but it also costs money, right? So if you can't find an employer to sponsor it, right, that's a whole nother issue. And so those are things that people have to take into consideration when they're making those moves. But I'm like you, I'm open-minded to a certain point, but there are going to be some things that I'm gonna be like, I don't know if I could do this, because I'm a romantic, but I think because of some of the things I went through, like my head and my heart now kind of have to always communicate.
Yes.
Right. Before I used to be like, oh, what is your heart telling you, right? Now I'm like, okay, what is your heart telling you? Okay, let's have a conversation with the head to make sure we're on the same page.
On the same page, right?
Right. And so I think that's another thing that kind of makes it, something that you need to consider. But it's like the online dating thing, right? There are many people that have had success on online dating apps. They've met people, they've gotten married. So I'm sure the same thing is happening with people who are going abroad to find love as well.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to how you were saying, you have to do your research when you want to move someplace, because, when you bring somebody over to this country, right, you marry them, you are essentially their sponsor for X amount of years. I want to say 5, but it might actually be 10. I'm not sure. So even if the marriage doesn't work out, you are still responsible for that individual. Yeah. So they could be going off doing their own thing, but you are still responsible for their financial well-being while they're here.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to consider, but definitely a good question and a good conversation, because, we look at, well, I've never seen the show, but you see, like, there are all of these shows, Married at First Sight, Love After Hip Hop, and Love After Lockup, and all these other shows, right? And although there's a component of it that might not really be realistic, there are people that are going through that. There are people that are, meeting someone in another country and communicating with them, and next thing you know, they go on vacation, they meet somebody, they come back, they communicate, next thing you know, the person is here. I mean, it happens.
It does.
Now, the $1 million question that that you asked, that I'm going to answer now, is, could I do it? I am 99% sure that I couldn't.
And I'm going to answer that question the same way. No, I would not be able to do that. I could not worry about them coming over there here and getting all the paperwork. Got enough paperwork to do over here, just for everyday stuff.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
also, and just trying to get to it just sounds like too much.
yeah,
Right.
definitely.
And also, I'm at a stage where, what, I'm just seeking peace. So how is it going to impact my peace?
Right.
Because that's the other side of it. Like, is it going to be stressful? Is it going to be a lot of work? Is it going to be whatever? So I'm just going to focus on just trying to see what happens with somebody in the States. Because Lord knows I have enough problems with that, meeting somebody here. So,
Yeah, it is. It is. It's not easy. It is not easy. Which is, one of the reasons why people will find love elsewhere.
exactly,
You know,
which is why we're having this conversation, right?
exactly.
Would
And
you find love? Would you take the leap and find love in another country? But also, I'm gonna just be honest, because my friends say this all the time. They're like, no one is going to knock on your door, ma'am.
that's
No
true.
one's gonna knock on your door, ma'am. So the other side of it is you don't have to go out, and I'm gonna make this my final closing remarks as we're hitting the top of the hour. I guess my remark is for those of us in the States that are hoping, waiting, wishing for love is right. You don't have to go out looking to meet someone, but you do have to be outside if there's ever going to be a possibility for someone to find you, right? So,
Uh,
so that is my final words for the person that might be like me, like, oh, I'm ready to date, I'm ready to jump back into the dating market, but little girl, they not gonna come knock on your door. You have to
that
be
that is true.
you have to be seen for someone to find you.
Yep, yep, yep. And you have to be willing to do the work.
Exactly. You have to really be. I mean, the one thing I can say is I have actually done the work that has, made me to the point where, okay, yeah, I'm ready to jump back into the little dating pool, right? But now it's just really, being intentional, which is my word, about
Yeah.
being outside. So, you know.
Okay. So my parting thoughts are going to be open the window, but don't jump out of it.
All
Do,
right, elaborate.
do yes, like you said, do make sure that you are doing anything when it comes to finding love for the right reason. Don't make any rash decisions and understand the implications behind everything you do. Whether again it's somebody that lives on the opposite side of the US for you, or if there's somebody that lives in another country, right? Just understand the implications and whether or not you are going to be able to, not willing to, but if you're going to be able to make the adjustments accordingly.
Mhm.
It's not easy. It's not as if it's impossible because people have been doing it for a very long time and they've been doing it successfully.
Yeah.
But you have to really examine if such a thing is for you.
Yeah. And we talked about it last week, right? Shirley Ralph and her husband and several other people that are doing it successfully. So I think at the end of the day, it comes down to what works for you, but don't, I mean, I've learned this, don't make rash decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and don't make a decision just because, like you said, Sheila, just because you want to be in a relationship. You really have to make sure whatever decision you're making, you're doing it for the right reason.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so that is our time. So another successful, lively relationship conversation on the Woman to Woman show, um, on the New You Nation Network. If you have not already done so, please like and subscribe to the network. We are here every Monday night at 8 p.m. We are just one of the shows that is on this fabulous network.
Yeah.
So please like and subscribe so you could tune into the other shows that are on this network, which most of our content is really geared to Gen X individuals. We welcome everyone, but we are really sharing our experiences of what it's like being a Gen Xer in this day and age. And so thank you for joining us tonight. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And we are going to say good night.
Good night.